Hey, it's Steve Riley. I'm here with the amazing Brenda Geiger, and we would like to welcome you to this particular issue of Great Practice, Great Life, this particular episode. So, Brenda, you are a longtime friend, a master marketer, mom extraordinaire. You run a phenomenal practice. There's so many things we can talk about, but first thing I want to do is thank you for taking the time to be on this podcast. So, thanks for being here.
And thank you for having me, and I'm honored.
Oh no, it's my honor, so I appreciate it. So, first off, let's do some of the basic stuff. I want people to kind of have a sense of who you are. Then I've got a couple really intense personal questions that will, I think, give people a sense of who you are. So first, where are you? And talk a little bit about your practice for people that have never met the amazing Brenda.
My primary office is in Carlsbad, California, and for those who don't know where that's at, that is the north coastal part of San Diego. So we're about an hour north of the border. And I have a second office in Laguna Niguel, and that's in Orange County, South Orange County. So that's about 45 minutes away from my Carlsbad office. And we practice primarily in estate planning and administration. We no longer do probate. We used to do probate. Well, we are too busy, so we now farm that out and get some referral fees in for doing that. And we do some asset protection planning, some more advanced estate planning, but we also do basic estate planning. And we've got 3 lawyers. I'm the managing attorney, and I've been in business through my corporation for about 15 years, been practicing for 19.
And so it's interesting because your father kind of encouraged you when he didn't realize it to be an entrepreneur, own your own shop, your own business, whether it's an antique shop or a law shop, it's still a shop. You're running a show, you're running a business, and your father kind of planted that seed and ended up kind of carrying you through this. And I know you've talked a lot about your father through marketing and some other things that you've done in the world, out in the world. So let's talk about that for a few minutes. So when you started your practice, what was it like? Was just you? I mean, you had a paralegal background, so was it just you at the time, or tell me the story behind the practice?
Yeah, it was just me, basically working out of this very office I'm sitting in right now. It didn't look as nice as it looks now, but it was the office I worked in. And I would just meet people, rent out time at a local place that had, conference rooms. And eventually I hired a part-time assistant, and she'd come here to the office, help me do the filing and, do other little things that I needed done. And eventually then I went to like a Regis Center and started renting a small office from them, and then a little bit bigger office, and then a little bit bigger, and then realized, wow, I'm paying a lot. I could probably go out and lease my own office space, and that's what I did. And then had gone in partnership, not formal partnership, but like on the expenses with another lawyer that did bankruptcy law. That one didn't turn out so good because he ended up leaving me before our lease was up and stuck me with the bill because we were joint and severable.
Oh,
I got
wonderful.
sued, but I settled with them, and they took a reduced rate and just dropped it. But that's a little lesson learned.
Yeah, it's silly, but I'd like to talk about your process for writing a book. So do you sit down and write the whole thing from beginning to end, or how do you start? How does this brilliant mind of yours go? Do you do it while you're driving to soccer games? Do you do it while you're watching soccer games? Do you do it while your son's practicing? How does it, talk to me? You're like the busiest, you're an ideal client from my perspective because you run a fantastic practice. You market well, you have a great life, you got a phenomenal family. You live a lifestyle that you probably could never dream of as a teenager working your father's antique store. But how do you get it with everything else that you got going on? How do you get a book done? Like, talk to me about that. Give me some advice on how to write a book.
Well, I think for me, um, obviously updating them is pretty easy now. You can just print out the old one and do markups and hand it to your assistant and have them do the updates.
Sure.
But even I would say, unless the help of somebody on your team, if you have a team that can help you push that needle forward. For me, I'll globally talk about, I have like a scorecard I fill out once a week on Friday, and I hand it off to my team. One of the metrics I gauge myself on is spending 1 hour on my 90-day focuser, which is a tool that Atticus helps lawyers with their planning and their goals. So let's say like on my 90-day focuser, one of my goals is to get the affluent book done by March 1st, to get it published, actually get a physical copy, right? So on my my weekly scorecard, it says, did I work for at least an hour on my 90-day focuser? So I just block that time through the week, and I can't give myself a 5 out of 40 on that one metric of 8 metrics unless I get that done. So it's an impetus to show my team I'm in congruence with what I say I do. Everybody on my team's got a scorecard, by the way, but I make sure that I have one too. So that's what helps me with the cadence of getting it done. But then as far as writing it, I think if you can start with topics that you think are relevant to what your clients are asking you most, or even the colleagues, if you've got allied professionals like, financial advisor or CPA, whatever they're asking you, you could say, make that, whatever the question is, make that the title of the chapter. And that'll inform you, and you can put that in your table of contents. You're always going to have a first chapter that's going to explain kind of, you can write that at the end, after you've got all your other chapters in place and what the summarization of the book's going to be. And then your last chapter is going to be who you are as, your bio. And maybe even a section before that on how people can do business with you. Maybe a chapter, what to do next.
Next question. If you could go back and talk to the young Brenda at any stage of life, what would you say to her as advice? Like if you could go back in, your GTO time machine and say, hey, Brenda, it's me, future Brenda. At what age would you go back and what would you say?
There was, in the beginning of the practice, there was a period of time where I didn't have the business skills that I do now. And I made some mistakes. And thankfully, my husband was in a position where he could help me out of that mistake financially. I just didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know I needed to develop business skills. I mean, really, if I could go back in time, I would have gotten a bachelor's in business administration to begin with, but I got a degree in psychology, and that's where I'm at. These are learnable skills, and it's not rocket science. You just need to study, and you need to be involved with, things like Atticus that teach this kind of stuff. And if I would have known that sooner, I would have crossed that bridge sooner.
That's good. That's very good. I think that's wonderful advice, because I've talked, I've talked about this. I think you just nailed one of the big blind spots for a lot of lawyers. It doesn't matter how good of a lawyer you are if you don't understand the business skills necessary to run your own practice, then you will get into trouble or you'll burn out. But they're both kind of the same thing for me. I've really met some very talented, brilliant lawyers that are husks. They're just empty shells of who and once, of the greatness they once were. And they're burned out. They're just fried. And I see so many great lawyers just, I could say, they busy themselves to death. And the vanity of being a great lawyer steals what they went into the business for in the first place, which is the same thing you did, the autonomous, the self-law control over their destiny, control over their life. And it just sucks them dry. And they have nothing left to give. And unfortunately, they're at a point in time in their careers where they should be at the peak of their career, not at the bottom of their performance, right? Mm-hmm. So I think what you're saying is a very, very powerful and very insightful and very interesting.